Hello guys, welcome back to my channel Pharmanic. So in today's video we will continue with the autonomic nervous system. So in previous video we have talked about the organization and function of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So today we will see that how our brain recognizes the stress situation and act accordingly. So, whenever we are in a stressful situation, there is a perception of stress in our brain, and then there will be activation of the sympathetic nervous system. So, whenever there is activation of the sympathetic nervous system, there will be a sympathetic outflow from our preganglionic fiber, and this preganglionic fiber on activation, it will release the neurotransmitter that will activate the postganglionic fiber and adrenal medulla. So whenever the ganglionic fibers and the adrenal medulla gets activated, there will be the release of neurotransmitter. Since this is a sympathetic nervous system activation, there will be release of noradrenaline from the postganglionic fiber to the tissue and epinephrine from the adrenal medulla directly to the circulation. So this is our spinal cord. So from our spinal cord, on stimulation of the sympathetic nervous system, there will be a outflow. This is the preganglionic fiber. So preganglionic fiber will release the neurotransmitter that will further act upon the postganglionic fiber, and it will activate it, and there will be release of the neurotransmitter that is noradrenaline, which will work directly upon the tissue. Another way to produce a neurotransmitter in case of sympathetic nervous system is by stimulating adrenal medulla directly, which will produce the epinephrine as the neurotransmitter that will release to the circulation, and from the circulation they will work on the receptors that are present in the tissues. So for the regulation of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, the main center is the hypothalamus. In hypothalamus, there is an anterior pituitary area which is also known as anteromedial, and there is posterior pituitary area which is also known as posterolateral. So whenever we are in the stressful situation, the posterior pituitary gets activated because the posterior pituitary directly regulates the sympathetic nervous system, whereas the anterior pituitary, they regulate the parasympathetic nervous system. So we can say that in case of the stressful situation in the hypothalamus, the posterior pituitary gets activated, and this posterior pituitary in turn activates the sympathetic nervous system. But the question is, how does our brain understands if we have to stimulate the posterior pituitary or the anterior pituitary? So in our brain there is a large area that deals with the memory and emotion, and this area is the limbic system. The function of the limbic system is concerned with the emotion, behavior, and some recent memories. So let us take an example of a dog running behind a man. So whenever the dog barks, the sound of the barking through the auditory pathway will go to the auditory cortex in the temporal area, and this will give a special stimulation of the limbic system. Again, whenever the person sees the dog at that time, through the visual cortex, it will give some visual information to the limbic system. Also, the brain, if the person has encountered or have some previous bad memories related to the dog, then this memory will also give some information or stimulation to the limbic system. So limbic system is the area that is present in the brain. So all this information will be compiled by the limbic system, and then it will analyze them, and at last the sympathetic system will get activated. Whenever the sympathetic system will get activated, it will move down through the descending pathway. The descending pathway is made up of multiple neurons, which is also called the neuronal pathway. So whenever the information are moving by the descending pathway, it will go to the spinal cord, and from the spinal cord there will be the sympathetic outflow from the portions of the lumbar part and the thoracic part from where the sympathetic nerves start. So whenever there is a sympathetic stimulation, the preganglionic fibers will get activated, that will release the neurotransmitter, and it will further activate the postganglionic fiber. Same will happen, and then there will be the release of the neurotransmitter noradrenaline in case of the sympathetic system, and they will act upon the receptors that are present in the tissues, and it will show its action accordingly. Now we will see what happens in the single nerve ending. The small molecules and the neurotransmitters are usually synthesized locally in the nerve ending itself. So, whenever the proteins are taken, a lot of amino acids come into GIT and are absorbed into the general circulation, and then they go to the tissues. So, one of the amino acid absorbed in the GIT is tyrosine. Sympathetic nerve endings are specialized in concentrating these amino acids called tyrosine through the pumps. These pumps are present in the nerve ending, and they take the tyrosine molecule from outside to inside. In this way, all the sympathetic nerve endings are rich in tyrosine. So, tyrosine they get converted into dopa with the help of an enzyme, that is tyrosine hydroxylase. Then this dopa further gets converted to dopamine with the help of an enzyme called dopa decarboxylase. Then from dopamine they form the norepinephrine with the help of an enzyme dopamine beta hydroxylase. Now, whenever this dopamine is formed, they are immediately pumped into the neuronal vesicles, or else it will get destroyed outside. So, in the cytosol of the cell, there is mitochondria. And on the surface of the mitochondria, there is an enzyme that is called monoamino oxidase. This monoamino oxidase is capable of destroying the amino acids or the monoamines. All the compounds that are derived from a single amino acids are called monoamines. Dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, they are all monoamines because they are formed from a single amino acid, that is the tyrosine. So this is a process how the norepinephrine are produced locally in the nerve ending, and then they get released from the postganglionic fiber and work upon the tissue and show their desired action. By this process, norepinephrine keep on accumulating inside the vesicle, and at some time due to the osmotic pressure it will burst out. So this norepinephrine, they are complexed with some proteins that are called as chromogranin, or they are complexed with ATP. These stored norepinephrine will get released from the neurons once the action potential reaches the axonal membrane. So what is action potential? We will see in the next video. So for today that's it, and in the next video we will see what is action potential, what is depolarization, repolarization, and about the neurohumoral transmission. So if you like the video, then please subscribe to my channel, and let's meet in the next video. Thank you.